Hello and welcome. Join me as I learn to construct a traditional Andean style sling. The majority of this sling is constructed with 16 strands of yarn. The finished product will be a 28-inch sling when measured from the end of the finger loop to the center of the pouch. For this project, I used a multicolored acrylic yarn that a friend of mine donated to me. I understand that wools or cottons are preferable because they give less stretch, but this is what I had to work with. I used the leg of my desk to fold over 8 strands to their midpoint. I pulled the two ends back to about 9 feet of length where I cut them. Back near the leg of the desk, where the strands have their center point, I tied off a spare string a few inches from the midpoint. I'd estimate this to be about 4 inches from the middle, given the dimensions of the table leg. This distance is what will be braided together to form the finger loop. Our braiding will begin at the point where the tie-off is located and will work past the midpoint, later adjoining the two strands together. For ease, I bundled one half of the yarns with all 8 of their strands together. This will hang down beneath where I am holding to braid. I then gathered the other side of the bundles in their individual strands. I have a video of this that I'll show later. I then repeated this process with 4 more strands folded over and pulled back to about 5 feet in length. This will form 8 additional braiding strands when I get closer to the pouch. The braid will go from 16 to 24 strands at this stage, and they will provide a few extra warp threads for me to weave the pouch around. I'll bundle those up and set them aside for the time being as well. Here at the start, we'll work on the finger loop. It'll be made from an 8-strand braid and go for a handful of inches before we adjoin the two sides of it, thus creating a 16-strand braid for the retention cord. Okay, so now we get to start with the actual braiding. I showed a photo a second ago of the 4 sides separated. I've got 2 held down in between my fists, so we have a kind of north-south side, and then an east and a west side as well. The main thing when you are braiding here is that you'll work with an under or a lower thread and an upper thread. Since we're just starting out, I didn't stack these in such a way that that's obvious, so it'll become more clear in future steps. But essentially, we will just cross one over, and we'll say that pairs with this one, and then we'll cross this one over, and then it will pair to this yellow one. So that's your step 1. Then what we'll do is you grab the others and basically rotate it. And you can, once you get a little more progress, you can do some more tensioning. I'll do that a little bit later, but again, now you can see the east and the west have become sort of your north-south. I'm going to pass one over, and I'm going to pair it with one here, and I'm going to pass this one over, and I'm going to pair it with this one here. And then basically you just continue that process over and over again. So now we've done a couple more passes. You can see this is where we are, but if you look from the side, I want to demonstrate a bit of this one being the upper, it's closer to the top, and this one being the lower. So if you look closely, and then on the other side as well, you can see that this one here is closer to the top, so that's the upper, and this one here is the lower. Um, with thicker yarns, it'll be a little more noticeable, and also depending on your color choices, sometimes you can make it easier to visualize which one needs to be passed in next. But it's always the lower that does the cross over, that moves, and then the upper stay put, and they're the ones that'll move the next cycle. So, all right, I'll do just a couple things here so you can see what this looks like. So again, I'm grabbing my lower, passing it to the upper. One thing you can do is grab that with a finger. It'll kind of help keep it tensioned. And I'm going to grab my other lower, cross it over to the upper, and you can use your other finger to hold that. So that's really quite tensioned when you have it under your fingers like that. And then I just usually grab the others, pull them up, and then turn it 90 degrees and grab the ones that I just passed. You can use this opportunity to, again, sort of put a little tension on it. So the ones you just passed over, I'm essentially pulling them down and then up on the others. And then that gives it a little bit of a tension. A little bit more. So you kind of get in a rhythm. You know that's your lower, pass it over to that upper, hook your finger, lower, pass it over to the upper, hook it, and that's that. You know, with these 8 strands, that's quite fast and simple per cycle. I can grab and do my tensioning, and then just basically grab it again, and there you go. Okay, so here I've done a couple inches of that, and need to do another couple, which will end up being the finger loop for the sling. So that'll be brought together, the 8 strands with another 8 strands. But when you're ready to pause one of these braids, it's really simple. So we have our split here. If I was going to braid the next one, I would just bring this over to the high, the upper, and this lower over. But I'm not, okay? So I'm just going to bring these up as if I had just pulled that tight. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clothespin and boom. There you go. Okay. Now that we've gone a short distance in what will be one side of the finger loop, I want to go ahead and introduce a change in the direction, which will create kind of this zigzag pattern. I'm hoping to space that out to be the very center part where the finger loop will turn. So to begin that, all you really need to do is change directions that you're pulling your unders to your overs. So up until this point in time, I've been doing under over to here to that top, and this under over to here, which is kind of this clockwise pattern. Instead, I want to be pulling it now in a counterclockwise pattern. The authors of the sling braiding book, Owen and Flynn, suggest to do this and to not have a skipped thread, a skipped stitch. Before you change the rotation, you take your uppers or rather your uppers, and you cross it over that lower. So again, take that upper, cross it over the lower. So now when I go to create my stitch, I'm going to take this lower to that upper. And then I'm going to take this lower over here to this upper. So as you can see, that causes the threads to want to go now in this counterclockwise fashion. So I'm going to just kind of settle those. Grab the next one. I'll do this in the next one here. You know, do my adjustment, switch positions, and again, lower, upper, lower, upper. So I'm going to take the upper, cross it over, upper, cross it over, and that way, when I'm taking my lowers, I'm going to be able to move them to an upper that does more of a counterclockwise rotation. Okay, so now I've changed the rotations. I'm going to do 3 repeats in a counterclockwise way, and then I'll change the direction and do 3 in a clockwise fashion and see what that looks like. Okay, so I've zigzagged back and forth a couple times. I'm going to now finish the rest of the finger loop the opposite spin to how it began. So to do that, I got to do one more reversal, and I'll record that now. So as was mentioned previously, your uppers, just so you get the stitches to look right, are going to go over the lower. The upper is going to go over the lower, and now I'm ready to do my counterclockwise movement. I think previously I said for the zigzag I was doing 3 and then turning and repeating 3. Anytime you bring the under across the center, it'll become the upper for the next time around. But that's your first count. So when I was counting 3 between the zigzags, when I bring it over like this, that's the first motion. So I changed direction in this stitch and then went over, and that's count 1 if you were to continue with the zigzag. I'm going to rotate it, bring a little bit of tension down. Now again, I'm trying to rotate, so I'm going to take this upper, cross it over, upper, upper. Kind of seems like it's in the right place already because I want to move these in a counterclockwise fashion. So it's just sort of laying the right way. There we go. Moving in our counterclockwise, and then the under to the over. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna just keep going until I have the desired length for the total finger loop. And at that point, it'll be a matter of joining the 8-strand braid to itself to create a 16-strand braid for the retention cord side of the sling.